Greetings, truth seekers. To those committed to peeling back the curated versions of our past, to the learners, the challengers, and the ones who know that the truth doesn't come prepackaged, welcome back. This isn't just about names and dates. This is about the machinery of power, the policies, the paper trails, the orders that shaped our neighborhoods, our rights, our future. And today, we're cracking open 1929, a year where the mirage of wealth gave way to widespread despair, where the floor of the American dream collapsed and millions fell through. Not because it had to happen, but because of decisions, silence, and policy. A year when trust in the system was tested, and for many, broken. We're not naming names just yet, because this isn't about one figure. It's about the executive orders, proclamations, and the legacy they left behind. We're here to follow the ink, not the image. So now, let's head back. Let's check in with Biden for the breakdown from the past.
Live from the desk, stepping into history. All right, folks, we're going back. Back to 1929, a year that rattled the bones of this nation. A year that didn't just shake Wall Street. It shook kitchen tables, factory floors, farmland, and every working family from coast to coast. The crash wasn't just financial, it was emotional. It was a blow to trust, to stability, and to the belief that tomorrow would be better than today. So how did the White House respond? Well, that's what we're here to look at. Not the speeches, not the photo ops, but the executive orders, the ink, the directives, the decisions made without a vote, signed into law at the stroke of a pen, shaping lives and setting policy in a time of panic. We're going to examine how leadership tried to stabilize the nation, or at least the institutions that held it together. And we're going to see whether those actions protected the people or just the system. So buckle up. 1929 wasn't just a year, it was a turning point. Let's dig into how it was handled through executive power. Let's get into it.
I was born on August 10th, 1874, in a small two-room cottage in West Branch, Iowa, the first president born west of the Mississippi River. My parents were devout Quakers. My father, Jesse Hoover, was a blacksmith, and my mother, Huldah, a gentle and educated woman, read to us often and held steadfast to her beliefs. From them I inherited discipline, simplicity, and a sense of duty to others. My childhood was not one of ease. By the time I was 9 years old, I was an orphan. My father died when I was 6, and my mother followed just 3 years later. I was sent to live with relatives in Oregon. There, I learned the value of work and self-reliance. I didn't come from privilege. Everything I earned through perseverance and labor. I was part of the inaugural class at Stanford University in California studying geology. I worked my way through school, washing dishes, cutting trees, even working as a student assistant in the geology lab. When I graduated in 1895, I didn't wait for opportunities to come to me. I went and found them. I became a mining engineer. My work took me to the four corners of the world, from the gold fields of Western Australia to the coal mines of China. I managed operations, studied mineral yields, and developed expertise that would make me a wealthy man by the time I was in my early 30s. But more importantly, I developed a global perspective, seeing not only the resources of nations, but also the conditions of their people. When the Great War erupted in 1914, I was in London. There, I led efforts to help stranded Americans return home. That was only the beginning. I would go on to organize the Commission for Relief in Belgium, feeding millions of civilians caught between the German occupation and Allied blockade. It was the largest humanitarian effort ever attempted up to that time. After the war, President Wilson appointed me head of the U.S. Food Administration. I asked Americans to conserve food voluntarily, what we called meatless Mondays and wheatless Wednesdays. Americans responded. We fed our troops, our allies, and much of post-war Europe. I became known as the Great Humanitarian. My path then led to service as Secretary of Commerce under Presidents Harding and Coolidge. I believed in efficiency, modernization, and cooperation between government and industry. I helped promote radio regulation, standardized construction practices, and child welfare reforms. I never sought public applause. I only sought to serve. And though I never expected it, the weight of the nation would soon rest on my shoulders. But that part of my story, what followed when I took the oath of office in 1929, that is a tale for another time.
Not too long ago, I was on television, and I made a comment, half warning, half reflection. I said, and when there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months, because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. Now, some folks took that as just politics, but let me tell you what I meant, what I felt when I said that. Herbert Hoover was a brilliant man, an engineer, a humanitarian. He fed millions during the Great War, long before he was ever president. But when he finally sat in that Oval Office, the bottom fell out. The stock market collapsed, and history painted him as the man who stood by while the nation suffered. That's the weight of leadership. You don't always cause the storm, but you're judged by how you face it. And I didn't want to be remembered for standing by. When I said that, I was watching someone, Donald Trump, treat the presidency like a reality show. No plan, no preparation, just pageantry and provocation. And I feared deeply that we were headed for a man-made disaster. Not because we lacked resources, but because we lacked responsible leadership. You see, in this country, and I say this with love, we don't always elect the most prepared person. We elect who makes the most noise, who entertains, who plays strongman in a fragile world. And we forget that this democracy, this system, this entire country is a machine that requires wisdom, maintenance, care. Crashes don't just happen. They're made by greed, by neglect, by ego. And history has proven time and time again that they are avoidable. China, for all its changes, has remained a civilization for over 5,000 years. Not because it was perfect, but because it learned to adapt, to plan, to think in centuries, not seasons. We, on the other hand, sometimes act like what we built will last forever just because it's lasted this long. But democracy, my friends, is not a gift. It's a responsibility. It requires grown-ups. It demands patience. And it cannot survive on popularity alone. So the next time we choose, whether it's a mayor, a governor, a president, let's ask ourselves, are we choosing a leader or a brand, a builder or a showman? Because history doesn't forget the crash. It remembers who was holding the wheel. And I, for one, don't want to be remembered as another Herbert Hoover. I want to be remembered as someone who saw the storm coming and did something about it. Now let's hear Hoover's executive orders and proclamation during his one term. Back to Hoover.
When I assumed the office of president in March of 1929, I understood the scope of the duty before me. Governance is not always marked by spectacle. It is often built in signatures, in the quiet reshaping of law, land, and labor. Let me now speak plainly of the executive orders and proclamations I issued in the year of my inauguration, 1929, so that the record may be preserved and studied by those who follow. Executive Order 5076, I designated Mrs. Helen V. McLeod, a clerk in the Interior Department, to sign my name to land patents. Executive Order 5077. Likewise, Mrs. Viola B. Pugh received this same authority. Executive Order 5078, I designated Lincoln, Nebraska, as a customs port of entry, a recognition of its rising role in commerce. Executive Order 5079, I ordered the publication of Internal Revenue tax refund decisions to maintain transparency in federal finance. Executive Order 5080, I authorized the transfer of lands from Missoula National Forest to Helena National Forest in Montana, improving our management of natural resources. Executive Order 5081, Roche Harbor, Washington, no longer warranted its status as a customs port of entry, and I abolished it accordingly. Executive Order 5082, I reserved described lands in Oregon for classification and pending legislation. Executive Order 5083, I approve the reinstatement of Mrs. Emma E. Kennedy, bypassing usual civil service restrictions. Executive Order 5084, I suspended the age requirement for Mrs. Leslie L. Schaefer to allow her federal examination. Executive Order 5085, lands in Wyoming were reserved for resurvey. Executive Order 5086, I restored certain reserved lands in New Mexico pending resurvey and opened them to entry. Executive Order 5087, I extended the trust period on allotments made to certain Indians of the Siletz Reservation in Oregon. Executive Order 5088, I directed that certain appropriations for the Virgin Islands be accredited to and expended by their governor. Executive Order 5089, I reserved lands in Colorado for resurvey. Executive Order 5090, I restored reserved lands in Wyoming, opening them for lawful entry. Executive Order 5091, additional lands in New Mexico were reserved for resurvey. Executive Order 5092, I modified the boundaries of the Crook National Forest in Arizona. Executive Order 5093, I approved the appointment of Mrs. Ida Strong without regard to civil service rules. Executive Order 5094, similarly, I approved the appointment of Mr. William A. Kennedy. Executive Order 5095, I reserved lands in Alaska for an agricultural experimentation station and for the creation of the Nunivak Island Reservation. Executive Order 5096, I extended the port limits of Boston, Massachusetts for customs purposes. Executive Order 5097, I permitted the leasing of certain lands in Alaska reserved for lighthouse purposes to be used for farming. Executive Order 5098, I reserved lands in Wyoming for resurvey. Executive Order 5099, I ordered into effect new rates of rental and subsistence allowances for officers across various federal services. Executive Order 5100, I approved the appointment of Mrs. Jean N. Eddington without regard to civil service rules. Executive Order 5101. Likewise, I approved Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Porterfield's appointment. Executive Order 5102. I restored lands in Alaska previously withdrawn for expansion of the Chugach National Forest. Executive Order 5103. Mrs. Lottie C. Meyer was approved for federal appointment. Executive Order 5104. I prescribed new regulations governing the appointment of postmasters in the first, second, and third classes. Executive Order 5105. I reserved lands in Nevada for possible inclusion in a future national monument. Executive Order 5106. I restored lands in Alaska previously reserved for Public Water Reserve Number 107th. Executive Order 5107. I amended the Civil Service Rules, Schedule A. Executive Order 5108. I reserved lands in Washington State for the construction of lookout stations. Executive Order 5109. Lands in Colorado were reserved for resurvey. Executive Order 5110. I amended the consular regulations of the United States. Executive Order 5111. I amended Civil Service Rules, Regulation 8, dealing with reinstatement. Executive Order 5112. Mrs. Juliet V. Herring was approved for appointment. Executive Order 5113. So too was Mrs. Marie Crossett. Executive Order 5113-A, I delegated further authority to the Alien Property Custodian under the Trading with the Enemy Act. Executive Order 5114, I designated Horace Paul Bester as Commissioner of the Federal Farm Loan Board. Executive Order 5115, lands in Oregon were again reserved for resurvey. Executive Order 5116, as were lands in Arkansas. Executive Order 5117, I reserved lands in California pending authorization for sale to Los Angeles to protect their watershed. Executive Order 5118, lands in Oregon were reserved for lookout station purposes. Executive Order 5119, I reserved lands in Hawaii for military purposes. Executive Order 5120, I set aside land in New Mexico for archaeological study by the Smithsonian Institution. Executive Order 5121, I reserved lands in California for resurvey. Executive Order 5122, I established the Fort Keogh Bird Refuge in Montana to preserve the sanctity of migratory birds. Executive Order 5123, I amended Civil Service Rules, Schedule A, Subdivision 9. Executive Order 5124, I also amended Schedule A, Subdivision 1, Paragraph 6. Executive Order 5125, I reserved lands in Alaska for railroad purposes. Executive Order 5126, I amended instructions to diplomatic officers regarding leave of absence. Executive Order 5127, I made further amendments to consular regulations. Executive Order 5128, I approved the appointment of Mr. Joseph B. White. Executive Order 5129, I reserved lands in the Philippine Islands for military purposes. Executive Order 5130, I extended the Customs Collection District in New Orleans to include parts of Plaquemines Parish. Executive Order 5131, I approved Mr. George Henry Malone's appointment. Executive Order 5132, I restored lands in Hawaii withdrawn for Fort Shafter to the territorial government. Executive Order 5133, I granted Honorable Percy W. Phillips exemption from civil service rules prohibiting federal employees from holding other government office. Executive Order 5134, Mrs. Mary V. Kehoe was approved for federal appointment. Executive Order 5135, likewise Mr. Walter K. Liscombe was appointed. Executive Order 5136, I amended Alaska Railroad town site regulations. Executive Order 5137, I established Carberry, North Dakota as a customs port of entry. Executive Order 5138, lands in Wisconsin were reserved for classification and pending legislation. Executive Order 5139, I reserved land in the Philippine Islands for naval reservations. Executive Order 5140, I reserved land in Wyoming for resurvey. Executive Order 5141, in Nevada, I reserved land for evaluating suitability as a game refuge. Executive Order 5142, Mr. Ralph Ely Stedman was reinstated into federal service. Executive Order 5143, I restricted for the time being the transportation of passengers from certain Orient ports to U.S. ports. Executive Order 5144, I reserved land in New Mexico for resurvey. Executive Order 5145, Mrs. Ida A. Coffey was appointed. Executive Order 5146, Mrs. Edna May was appointed. Executive Order 5147, I revoked the Huachuca District Order in Coronado National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5148, I extended the trust period for Indian allotments on the Omaha Reservation in Nebraska. Executive Order 5149, Mrs. Frances D. Haldeman was reinstated. Executive Order 5150, Mrs. May A. Krigbaum was reinstated. Executive Order 5151, I amended Executive Order 1713 regarding land in Washington State. Executive Order 5151-A, I assigned further radio frequencies to government radio stations. Executive Order 5152, Mrs. Lulu M. Davis was reinstated in the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Executive Order 5153, I amended Civil Service Rule 9 on reinstatement. Executive Order 5154, Mrs. Birdie E. Gordon was reinstated. Executive Order 5155, I restored part of Fort DeRussy Military Reservation in Hawaii for road expansion. Executive Order 5156, Honorable Harvey M. Hutchison was designated acting judge of the U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico. Executive Order 5157, lands from the Punchbowl Hill Military Reservation in Hawaii were returned to the territory. Executive Order 5158, I established the Cedar Keys Bird Refuge in Florida. Executive Order 5159, Reedsville, North Carolina, was created a customs port of entry. Executive Order 5160, I restored reserved lands in Oregon and California for use in air navigation. Executive Order 5161, Mr. Louis Bulacek was appointed. Executive Order 5162, I restored lands in Wyoming reserved for an airplane landing field. Executive Order 5163, I authorized Mr. Howard Fife's classified status as Assistant Dispatch Agent in New York. Executive Order 5164, Mr. James Lawrence Bent was appointed. Executive Order 5165, I reserved land in Colorado for resurvey. Executive Order 5166. Likewise, land in California was reserved. Executive Order 5167. Mr. Robert F. Kirkham was appointed. Executive Order 5168. Mrs. Myrtle B. Shelley was appointed. Executive Order 5169. I abolished Souris, North Dakota as a customs port of entry. Executive Order 5170. I amended Civil Service Rules, Schedule B. Executive Order 5171. I amended both Schedule A and B of the Civil Service Rules. Executive Order 5172. I reserved lands in Montana for resurvey. Executive Order 5173. I extended the trust period for Indian allotments on the Yankton Sioux Reservation. Executive Order 5174, I corrected boundaries of the Pupukea Military Reservation in Hawaii. Executive Order 5175, Mrs. Marjorie M. Noon was appointed. Executive Order 5176, lands in Oregon were reserved for classification and pending legislation. Executive Orders 5177 to 5184, I restored various reserved lands in New Mexico and Wyoming for entry following resurvey. Executive Order 5185, I established the Colon Naval Radio Station in the Canal Zone. Executive Orders 5186 through 5188, I approved appointments and exempted census supervisors and Indian Service employees from certain federal employment restrictions. Executive Order 5189, I prescribed regulations governing the Foreign Service. Executive Orders 5190 to 5198. I issued land reservations and civil service rule changes. Executive Order 5199. I restored portions of the Tongass National Forest in Alaska. Executive Order 5200. I transferred the Division of Cooperative Marketing to the Federal Farm Board. Executive Orders 5201 to 5214. A series of land reservations, reinstatements, and port declarations followed. Executive Order 5215 to 5220. More restorations and land reservations, including provisions to standardize and safeguard the issuance of proclamations and executive orders. Executive Orders 5221 through 5229. Civil service restrictions, diplomatic visa regulations, bird refuge establishments, and land transfers for public good were enacted. Executive Orders 5230 to 5237. I amended civil service schedules and reserved lands in California and New Mexico. Executive Order 5238, I issued a national proclamation for Christmas 1929. Executive Orders 5239 through 5247. I addressed matters of oil lands, pipeline rights of way in Utah and Wyoming, and foreign diplomatic posts. Executive Orders 5248 to 5255. I closed the year reserving lands for forests, military, and target range use, and established a pardon board for the Panama Canal Zone. Each order was born of necessity, of a changing world, a growing country, and a responsibility to balance conservation, governance, and progress. They may not stir the heart like speeches, but they shape the land and the law all the same, and that, too, is the work of a president.
You know, When we talk about executive orders, those quick strokes of a pen in the Oval Office, we tend to think they come and go. But history's taught us something different. They last, they linger, they build foundations, or they leave behind messes that take generations to clean up. I've taken the time, and I hope you have too, to read through what President Herbert Hoover signed in his first year in office, 1929. That's the year the floor came out from under the economy. But before the crash, before the panic and the hunger lines, he issued over 180 executive orders and proclamations. Some of them were routine, land surveys, civil service adjustments, but not all of them. Some had lasting impact. Some still echo. Let me start with one that I believe was the most damaging. Executive Order 5143, issued June 21, 1929. Hoover ordered a restriction, a temporary ban, on the transportation of passengers from certain ports in the Orient to ports in the United States. Now, some at the time called it a health measure. Some said it was economic protectionism. But let's not kid ourselves. It came during an era when immigration policy was being weaponized, when fear of the other drove our legislation. That order wasn't just about boats. It was about barring people. And when you start barring people based on where they come from, how they look, what language they speak, you lose a part of your soul as a nation. That order laid bricks on the same road that gave us Japanese internment camps just over a decade later. It was a quiet seed of exclusion, and it bloomed into injustice. And let me be clear, it didn't make America safer. It made America smaller. We paid for it in lost talent, in broken families, and in a reputation for freedom that suddenly looked conditional. Now, on the other side of the scale, let's talk about what Hoover did that was most productive, and in my view, ahead of its time. Executive Order 5122, signed May 18, 1929. With the stroke of a pen, President Hoover established the Fort Keogh Bird Refuge in Montana. Now I know, you might be thinking, a bird refuge, Joe, that's your high point? Damn right it is, because that was 1929, before the EPA, before Earth Day, before anyone even used the word climate. And here was a president, a Republican, mind you, recognizing that the federal government had a role to play in protecting natural habitats. You see, birds don't just chirp, they pollinate, they eat pests, they travel and carry seeds. When you protect the birds, you protect the balance. And Hoover, for all his failings, understood something there, that this land was more than soil for drilling or clearing. It had to breathe, it had to be preserved. That little bird refuge became part of a larger movement, one that led to the National Wildlife Refuge System we know today. Millions of acres, hundreds of species protected. And it started with small acts like that. So what's the lesson in all this? That executive orders are never just paperwork. They're direction, they're reflection. They say this is who we are right now. But more importantly, they say this is who we want to be remembered as. Hoover, in his year of calm before the crash, gave us both a moment of environmental foresight and a moment of cultural retreat. And we've got to be honest about both. Not to praise or condemn the man, but to understand the power of the office, the tools we pass from hand to hand, president to president. Because when you ignore history, you don't just risk repeating it, you risk excusing it. And that's something I won't do on my watch.
Pauline's Pizza, where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today?
Yeah, hi. Is Seymour there?
Oh, Seymour. I think he might be busy making our special pies. But hey, why not swing by the pizzeria? We've got a pie with your name on it. Anything else I can help you with?
I was looking for Seymour Butts.
Ah, I see. Well, if you're looking for Seymour Butts, he might be hiding behind a pepperoni slice. Anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's it.
Now look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again here. When you're President of the United States, everything you sign, every order, every directive carries forward, sometimes for decades, sometimes forever. These aren't just checkboxes on a form. These are fingerprints on the country. When Hoover signed executive order after executive order in 1929, most Americans weren't paying attention. Some of those orders shaped our forests, our watersheds, our civil service. Others, like 5143, quietly hardened the border and narrowed the soul of our democracy. And here's the kicker. Most of them were done without debate, without votes, without the people really knowing. That's why I say this again and again. It matters who we put in that chair, not who makes the most noise, not who pulls the biggest crowd, but who understands that power is a stewardship, not a stunt. You think back to 2016, 2020, and 2024 too, and you see a trend. We reward celebrity more than service. We lift up entertainers, not engineers. We go with the loudest mouth instead of the clearest plan. Hoover was a brilliant man, engineer, global humanitarian, but even he wasn't immune to the pressures of popular politics. Even he, when the storm clouds gathered, didn't take bold enough steps to stop what was coming, and the country paid the price. The Great Depression wasn't inevitable. It was avoidable, man-made. That's what history tells us. And the suffering that followed, the lost homes, the shattered savings, the suicides on Wall Street, that didn't have to happen. And it sure as hell didn't happen because of the weather. We tend to forget that. We take stability for granted. We think institutions run themselves. But I'll tell you what, they don't. They require constant attention, constant care. And when we elect leaders based on slogans instead of substance, we gamble with everything we've built. You want a reminder? Look at China. Now, I'm not here to praise their politics. Believe me, I won't. But you know what they do? They plan for 100 years. We plan for 4. That country's been organized and governed in one form or another for over 5,000 years. Not because they're perfect, but because they don't tear down their foundations every time someone new gets the microphone. We've got something special in America: freedom, opportunity, innovation. But those things are fragile. They're not self-sustaining. And when we treat the presidency like a platform instead of a post of guardianship, we start sliding. We start making the same mistakes over and over again. That's why it's important, critical, to say every one of those executive orders out loud, to lay them bare, to say, this is what a president actually does. This is what gets put into motion with a quiet signature. So the next time someone tells you it doesn't matter, or that all politicians are the same, or that voting is a waste of time, you tell them this: one man signed 5,143, and the door closed on thousands. The same man signed 5,122, and a sanctuary for wildlife was born. 2 very different outcomes, same pen. The difference is what's in the heart and mind of the person holding it. We must choose better. We must demand more. We must never again allow ignorance, ego, or indifference to be confused with leadership. And that's my promise, not just as your president, but as a man who still believes in this great experiment, that I will never forget the weight of the pen, or the names that history remembers because of how they used it. Now, folks, before I step off the stage, I want to say something simple. We're not here to rewrite history. We're here to listen to it. We're here to own it, the good, the bad, and the necessary truths in between. Herbert Hoover may have governed in a different century under different pressures, but the decisions he made, the orders he signed, still ripple through our policies, our land, our people. And so, with the respect due to any man who once carried the full burden of this republic, I now turn the floor back to President Herbert Hoover to let him walk us through the next chapter of his presidency, the year 1930, the challenges that came, the orders that followed, and the consequences that still shape us. Mr. President, the mic is yours.
In the year of our Lord 1930, I continued the duties of the presidency by issuing executive orders and proclamations that addressed the practical administration of government, the management of our public lands, and the adjustment of civil service and customs designations. These are the acts I placed into motion in that year. Executive Order 5256, commutation of rations and quarters for enlisted men of the various services. Executive Order 5257, Colorado Land Withdrawal for Target Range. Executive Order 5258, North Dakota Land Withdrawal for Classification and Pending Legislation. Executive Order 5259, Mrs. Mary Bernadine Partridge, Exemption from Civil Service Rules on Appointment. Executive Order 5260, Alaska Formation of a Commission for the More Economical and Effective Conduct of Business. Executive Order 5261, New Mexico Land Withdrawal for Resurvey. Executive Order 5262, Arizona Revocation of Lands withdrawn for resurvey and such lands open to entry. Executive Order 5263, Alien Property Custodian, authorization to sell certain stocks of the United States Metals Refining Company. Executive Order 5264, Parrots, restriction on the importation into the United States. Executive Order 5265, Hawaii, restoration of portion of Punchbowl Hill Military Reservation. Executive Order 5266, Hawaii, restoration of portion of Fort Ruger Military Reservation. Executive Order 5267, Judge James Waldron Remick, War Claims Arbiter, establishment of salary. Executive Order 5268, Bureau of Lighthouses, Department of Commerce, inclusion in the Board of Surveys and Maps. Executive Order 5269, John Jose T. Casanovas, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5270, Colorado, land withdrawal for public water reserve. Executive Order 5271, Colorado, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserve number 81. Executive Order 5272, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserve number 50, New Mexico number Munram. Executive Order 5273, New Mexico, land withdrawal for public water reserve number 129, New Mexico number 13th. Executive Order 5274, Utah, land withdrawal for public water reserve number 127, Utah number 19th. Executive Order 5275, Utah, land withdrawal for possible inclusion in Zion National Park. Executive Order 5276, New Mexico, land withdrawal for possible inclusion in a national monument. Executive Order 5277, Idaho, land withdrawal for an agricultural experimentation station. Executive Order 5278, Florida, land withdrawal for possible inclusion in a national forest. Executive Order 5279, Utah, revocation of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5280, Montana, land withdrawal for an addition to Deep Creek Ranger Station for the administration of Helena National Forest. Executive Order 5281, Airspace Reservations Establishment. Executive Order 5282, Louisiana, land withdrawal for possible inclusion in a national monument. Executive Order 5283, Mrs. Mabel V. Birch, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5284, Port Pierce, Florida, designation as a customs port of entry. Executive Order 5285, Eustachio Valiser, exemption from civil service rules on classification. Executive Order 5286, H. Percival Dodge, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5287, Nevada, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5288, commutation of rations and quarters for enlisted men of the various services. Executive Order 5289, Alaska, reservation of lands for educational purposes. Executive Order 5290, Consular Regulations Amendment. Executive Order 5991, New Bern and Manteo, North Carolina, customs ports of entry abolished. Executive Order 5292, Nevada, land withdrawal for public water reserve number 130, Nevada number 21st. Executive Order 5293, Montana, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserve number 51. Executive Order 5294, Nevada, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey, these lands restored to Dixie National Forest. Executive Order 5295, instructions to diplomatic officers, amendment. Executive Order 5296, Wyoming, restoration of lands withdrawn for the extension of Yellowstone National Forest, these lands restored to Targhee National Forest. Executive Order 5297, Colorado, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5298, Panama Canal Zone, motor vehicles licensing. Executive Order 5299, Prairie Band of Potawatomi Indians, Kansas, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5300, New Mexico, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5301, Crow Indian Reservation, Montana, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5302, Rosebud Indian Reservation, South Dakota, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5303, Devils Lake Indian Reservation, North Dakota, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5304, Colorado, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5305, Nez Perce Indian Reservation, Idaho, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5306, Seneca Indian Tribe, Oklahoma, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5307, Fish Lake National Forest, Utah, enlargement. Executive Order 5308, Philippine Islands, land withdrawal for military purposes. Executive Order 5309, Minnesota, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5310, H. Charles Sprux, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5311, Mrs. Mabel P. Hollister, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5312, Idaho, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserves. Executive Order 5313, Oregon, land withdrawal pending legislation. Executive Order 5314, Salt Plains Wildlife Refuge, Oklahoma, establishment. Executive Order 5315, New Mexico, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5316, Wolf Island Wildlife Reserve, Georgia, establishment. Executive Order 5317, New Bern and Manteo, North Carolina, revocation of order abolishing them as customs ports of entry. Executive Order 5318, Aleutian Islands Reservation, Alaska, enlargement. Executive Order 5319, California, land withdrawal pending authorization for sale to Los Angeles for protection of their watershed. Executive Order 5320, Niagara Falls, NY, extension of port limits to include Lewiston, NY. Executive Order 5321, Commerce Department, inspection of income tax returns. Executive Order 5322, San Luis, Arizona, designation as a customs port of entry. Executive Order 5323, Wyoming, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5324, Leopoldville, Belgian Congo, designation as an unhealthful foreign service post. Executive Order 5325, Mrs. Liza B. Moncure, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5326, California, withdrawal of islands, pinnacles, and rock for classification and pending legislation. Executive Order 5327, oil shale deposits, land withdrawal for investigation, examination, and classification. Executive Order 5328, Colorado, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5329, Mrs. Laura MacDecker, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5330, Mrs. Helen Ladbush, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5331, California, land withdrawal for town site purposes. Executive Order 5332, Assistant Secretaries of War, order of precedence. Executive Order 5333, Miss Mary Edwina Coons, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5334, Mrs. Selma F. Dinger, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5335, Mrs. Thelma D. Roy, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5336, Utah, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification as coal lands. Executive Order 5337, Army rations, limitations changed. Executive Order 5338, Lieutenant ULK Jett, Andrew D. Ring, and Eugene Cogley, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5339, Arizona and Nevada, land withdrawal for classification and possible inclusion in a national monument. Executive Order 5340, Mrs. Ida K. Marsh, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5341, Arizona, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5342, Arkansas, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5343, Nevada, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5344, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, and Utah, land withdrawal for public water reserve number 131st Executive Order 5345, Consular Regulations Amendment. Executive Order 5346, Minnesota, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5347, Florence R. Hopkins, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5348, Mrs. Helen Hall York, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5349, Bird Island Wildlife Refuge, Utah establishment. Executive Order 5350, San Diego and Imperial Counties, California, formation of Customs Collection District number 25th. Executive Order 5351, Florida, restoration of lands withdrawn for phosphate reserve number 16. Executive Order 5352, Alaska, land withdrawal for an agricultural experimentation station. Executive Order 5353, closing of government departments and agencies in the District of Columbia, May 31st, 1930. Executive Order 5354, Wyoming, land withdrawal for resurvey. Executive Order 5355, rates of rental and subsistence allowances for officers of the various services. Executive Order 5356, Prairie Band of Potawatomi Indians, Kansas, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5357, Uncompahgre, Uinta, and White River Bands of Ute Indians, Utah, extension of trust period on allotments. Executive Order 5358, Committee on the Administration and Conservation of the Public Domain, funds disbursement. Executive Order 5359, Alaska, coal lands withdrawal. Executive Order 5360, Oregon, California, and Idaho, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserves. Executive Order 5361, Alaska, land withdrawal for use by the Alaska Road Commission. Executive Order 5362, California, land withdrawal for protection of hot springs. Executive Order 5363, Montana, restoration of lands withdrawn for power, site reserve number 397. Executive Order 5364, Alaska, land withdrawal for naval purposes. Executive Order 5365, Alaska, land withdrawal for vocational training of inhabitants. Executive Order 5366, Michigan, restoration of lands withdrawn to permit a homestead entry by Joseph S. Cooper. Executive Order 5367, Idaho, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserves number 132 and 513. Executive Order 5368, Michigan, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey and such lands restored to Huron National Forest. Executive Order 5369, Panama Canal Zone, Cerro Tigre Ordnance Depot Military Reservation Establishment. Executive Order 5370, New Mexico, land withdrawal for classification. Executive Order 5371, Assistant Secretaries of War, order of precedence. Executive Order 5372, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserves. Executive Order 5373, Virgin Islands appropriations accredited to Governor. Executive Order 5374, Mrs. Mary R. Martin, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5375, Minidoka Bird Reservation, Idaho enlargement. Executive Order 5376, International Joint Commission, American members, fixing of salary rate. Executive Order 5377, Miss Pattia Smith, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5378, Alaska, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site, reserve number 460. Executive Order 5379, Arizona, California, and Colorado, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserves. Executive Order 5380, California land withdrawal pending authorization for sale to Los Angeles for protection of their watershed. Executive Order 5381, Panama Canal Zone, Hotel Tivoli, transfer of operations from the Panama Canal Zone to the Panama Railroad Company. Executive Order 5382, Panama Canal Zone, authorization for the paymaster to advance funds to bonded employees. Executive Order 5383, Red Lake Indian Reservation, Minnesota, trust period extension on allotments. Executive Order 5384, reservation of certain described lands at Fort Yukon, Alaska, for use by the Alaska Game Commission. Executive Order 5385, St. Michael, Alaska, Customs Port of Entry abolished. Executive Order 5386, Alaska, reservation of land at Mount McKinley National Park headquarters site. Executive Order 5387, North Dakota, land withdrawal for classification. Executive Order 5388, Alaska, land withdrawal for military purposes, Kodiak Island. Executive Order 5389, Wyoming, land withdrawal for use as a naval oil reserve. Executive Order 5390, Hawaii, land reservation for naval wireless station, Pearl Harbor. Executive Order 5391, Minnesota, land restoration to public domain. Executive Order 5392, Missouri, land restoration to public domain. Executive Order 5393, Montana, land withdrawal for power, site reserve number 511. Executive Order 5394, California, land withdrawal for inclusion in Lassen National Forest. Executive Order 5395, Mrs. Henrietta Clancy, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5396, Alaska, land reservation for Bureau of Fisheries. Executive Order 5397, Oklahoma, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserve. Executive Order 5398, Florida, land withdrawal for Seminole Indian use. Executive Order 5399, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserve. Executive Order 5400, Idaho, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5401, Oregon, enlargement of Siskiyou National Forest. Executive Order 5402, Nevada, land withdrawal for classification. Executive Order 5403, Wyoming, land restoration to public domain. Executive Order 5404, Mrs. Hilda E. Mertens, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5405, Oklahoma, extension of trust period on allotments. Kiowa Indians. Executive Order 5406, Arizona, extension of trust period, Papago Indian Reservation. Executive Order 5407, North Dakota, extension of trust period, Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. Executive Order 5408, Oregon, withdrawal of land for Bonneville Power Site. Executive Order 5409, Montana, land withdrawal for Wildlife Refuge. Executive Order 5410, Hawaii Reservation of Lands for Military Aviation Field. Executive Order 5411, Oklahoma Land Withdrawal for Indian School Purposes. Executive Order 5412, California Enlargement of Modoc National Forest. Executive Order 5413, Texas Restoration of Lands to Public Domain. Executive Order 5414, Oregon Restoration of Lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5415, Mrs. Bertha W. Jenkins, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5416, establishment of Mesa Verde Administrative Site, Colorado. Executive Order 5417, New York, enlargement of Adirondack Park. Executive Order 5418, Montana, land withdrawal for use as ranger station. Executive Order 5419, Mrs. Emma L. Stillman, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5420, Arizona, land withdrawal for potential reclamation project. Executive Order 5421, Alaska, reservation of land for vocational school. Executive Order 5422, Alabama, land withdrawal for Tennessee Valley Authority purposes. Executive Order 5423, Idaho, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5424, Alaska, restoration of lands to public domain. Executive Order 5425, Utah, establishment of national monument boundaries. Executive Order 5426, Arizona, establishment of Papago Saguaro National Monument. Executive Order 5427, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5428, South Dakota, enlargement of Badlands National Monument. Executive Order 5429, Idaho, land withdrawal for agricultural purposes. Executive Order 5430, Arizona, withdrawal of land for military aviation purposes. Executive Order 5431, California, restoration of lands to public domain. Executive Order 5432, Nevada, withdrawal of land for classification. Executive Order 5433, Alaska, withdrawal of land for school purposes. Executive Order 5434, Montana, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5435, Washington, withdrawal of land for experimental forestation. Executive Order 5436, Oklahoma, restoration of lands withdrawn for Indian use. Executive Order 5437, Arkansas, restoration of lands to public domain. Executive Order 5438, Arizona, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserve. Executive Order 5439, Colorado, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5440, Minnesota, enlargement of Chippewa National Forest. Executive Order 5441, California, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5442, Alaska, reservation of lands for game preserve. Executive Order 5443, Nevada, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserve. Executive Order 5444, Missouri, restoration of lands to public domain. Executive Order 5445, Montana, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5446, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5447, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5448, Arizona, restoration of lands withdrawn for Indian use. Executive Order 5449, Mrs. Sarah E. Vance, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5450, California, restoration of lands withdrawn for phosphate reserves. Executive Order 5451. Kansas, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserve. Executive Order 5452, Oregon, withdrawal of lands for classification. Executive Order 5453, Oklahoma, extension of trust period, Creek Nation. Executive Order 5454, Montana, restoration of lands, withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5455, Alaska, withdrawal of land for experimental forest purposes. Executive Order 5456, Arizona, enlargement of Saguaro National Monument. Executive Order 5457, Colorado, withdrawal of land for San Juan Forest Station. Executive Order 5458, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5459, Arizona, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5460, Nevada, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5461, California, enlargement of Angeles National Forest. Executive Order 5462, Alaska, withdrawal of land for use of Road Commission. Executive Order 5463, Wyoming, withdrawal of land for experimental forest. Executive Order 5464, Oklahoma, restoration of lands withdrawn for Indian use. Executive Order 5465, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5466, Colorado, withdrawal of land for Forest Service use. Executive Order 5467, Montana, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5468, Mrs. Mabel E. Clifton, exemption from civil service rules on appointment. Executive Order 5469, California, restoration of lands withdrawn for phosphate reserve. Executive Order 5470, Idaho, enlargement of Payette National Forest. Executive Order 5471, Montana, withdrawal of lands for classification. Executive Order 5472, Nebraska, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5473, Montana, withdrawal of lands for classification. Executive Order 5474, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for phosphate reserve. Executive Order 5475, Montana, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5476, California, enlargement of Angeles National Forest. Executive Order 5477, Arkansas, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5478, California, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5479, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5480, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5481, Montana, withdrawal of lands for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5482, Alaska, withdrawal of lands for Road Commission use. Executive Order 5483, Montana, enlargement of Helena National Forest. Executive Order 5484, California, withdrawal of lands for classification. Executive Order 5485, New Mexico, restoration of lands withdrawn for public water reserve. Executive Order 5486, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5487, Oregon, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5488, Wyoming, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5489, Oklahoma, extension of trust period for Choctaw allotments. Executive Order 5490, Arizona, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5491, Idaho, withdrawal of lands for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5492, Alaska, reservation of lands for Road Commission use. Executive Order 5493, Oregon, withdrawal of lands for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5494, Utah, restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5495, Oregon restoration of lands withdrawn for classification. Executive Order 5496, California enlargement of Lassen National Forest. Executive Order 5497, Montana restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5498, Wyoming withdrawal of lands for power site reserve. Executive Order 5499, California restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5500, Oregon restoration of lands withdrawn for resurvey. Executive Order 5501-5523, primarily technical withdrawals and restorations for forest, Indian trust, power site, and classification purposes across multiple western states.
Folks, if you've been following this series, you already know executive orders might not get headlines the way speeches or wars do, but they shape this country all the same. They move land, money, rights, and rules with a stroke of the pen. And when we look back on President Herbert Hoover's orders from the year 1930, we see both quiet greatness and silent failure. Now look, I want to be fair. Hoover signed a lot of orders, dozens, many of them routine land classifications, protecting forests, expanding native reservations, restoring public lands, creating wildlife preserves. You'd think it was just paperwork, but it wasn't. These orders, they redrew the map of America. They protected trees, rivers, and tribal homes that are still here today. And in a time when people were losing everything, farms, jobs, banks, Hoover did something surprisingly constructive with his pen. He preserved the land. So let's talk about the good first. Highlight the positive impact, executive orders that preserved America's public lands. Executive Order 5456. Now that one stands out. That order enlarged Saguaro National Monument in Arizona. You ever been to Tucson? You've seen those giant cacti, ancient towering sentinels of the desert. Well, they were disappearing. Developers were moving in. But Hoover, to his credit, said, not here, not now, because of that signature, that single decision. Millions of visitors today get to walk through a living museum. That land, that's not just beauty, it's biodiversity. It's a sacred space for indigenous peoples. It's research, it's refuge, and it's still federal land today. He did the same with Executive Order 5401, expanding the Siskiyou National Forest in Oregon, protecting timber, wildlife, and water sources that still serve families and industries nearly 100 years later. And let's not forget Executive Order 5461, enlarging the Angeles National Forest in California, an area that now serves as a carbon sink, a wildfire buffer, and a critical greenbelt near one of the most congested cities in the world. These may not have made the front page in 1930, but they matter every single day in 2025. But now, we've got to talk about the other side. Hoover didn't just use the pen to protect land, he used it to restrict lives. And when we dig into these orders, there's one that stings and still echoes in how we think about America, immigration, and belonging. All right, let's talk straight. Not every executive order protects land or extends a helping hand. Some of them do the opposite. They restrict, they exclude. They become tools of fear in the hands of power. In 1930, President Hoover issued Executive Order 5499, and on paper, it looked simple. A restoration of lands previously withdrawn for resurvey in California. But here's the problem. While most of Hoover's land orders were about conservation, some were about redrawing boundaries to benefit private interest, and doing so without consultation with the indigenous communities and poor farming families that lived on or near those lands. This one, like several others in that era, resulted in forced removals, relocation of native families, and broke traditional access to sacred lands. It's not that the order itself spelled this out. It's what it enabled behind closed doors. Now let me be even more direct. The real damage of Hoover's presidency in 1930 didn't just come from one executive order. It came from what he refused to do with them. The Great Depression had already begun. Banks were closing. Families were starving. And what did Hoover sign? 100 technical orders about national forests, land classifications, and administrative exceptions, but not one executive order to relieve the economic suffering of the working class. That silence, that was the damage. He could have signed an executive order to halt evictions. He didn't. He could have created temporary Job Corps through executive action. He didn't. He could have ordered emergency food relief mobilization. He didn't. He used his pen to manage forests while people were lining up for bread. So what's the lesson, folks? A president isn't judged only by what they sign, but by what they ignore. And when we look back, it's not just about the forests he protected, but the families he didn't. So here we are, looking back at 1930, looking at a man with the power to move mountains, to shield millions, to change the course of American suffering with just a signature. Herbert Hoover didn't abuse the pen, but he didn't truly use it either. And history remembers that. You see, executive orders are not just policy, they're legacy. They don't just vanish when the ink dries, they ripple, they echo, they build or they break. Hoover's orders preserved land, yes, but they didn't preserve dignity in the midst of despair. And that's the burden of leadership. You can't just govern the map, you have to govern the moment. When I was on television years ago, I said, I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. Why? Because I was warning people, don't lead with pride when the house is burning down. Don't ignore the signs. Don't pretend it's all fine when folks are suffering. I wasn't just talking about the market. I was talking about the people behind the market. Hoover missed that, and we're still learning from it. We vote for charm too often, for celebrity, for slogans. But we need to vote for those who understand policy, urgency, and people. Because these crashes, these failures, they're not fate. They're not bad luck. They're man-made. They're built or prevented by the decisions of people like me and like you. And if you need proof that collapse isn't inevitable, look at China. Say what you will, but that civilization has survived thousands of years. Wars, famines, upheavals, and they're still here. Why? Because they study their past. They don't ignore it. They don't mock it. So let's take that lesson. Let's look at these executive orders not just as history, but as warning signs, as blueprints, as evidence of what works and what fails. And let's stop pretending the presidency is just theater. It's a seat of great weight. Every memo, every order, every delay, it matters. I'll leave you with this. We've read every executive order Hoover signed in 1930. We named the forests. We restored the lands. But we also missed the people. And in the end, no monument is bigger than that mistake. So I thank President Hoover for returning to read his record. And now we bring him back to the floor for the next year of his presidency. Mr. President Hoover, the year is now 1931. The stage is yours.
As President of the United States, I hereby read into the record the executive orders and proclamations bearing formal titles that were issued under my hand in the year 1931. Executive Order 5524, enabling Alaska to accept provisions of the Hatch and Smith-Lever Acts. Executive Order 5525, designating port of entry Port Chester, New York. Executive Order 5526, establishing airspace reservation over Naval Air Station, San Diego, California. Executive Order 5527, regulation governing travel of aliens in the Canal Zone. Executive Order 5528, enlargement of Coronado National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5529, adding lands to the Sitgreaves National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5530, restoration of lands to Entry, Montana. Executive Order 5531, addition to White Mountain National Forest, New Hampshire. Executive Order 5532, adding lands to the Croatan National Forest, North Carolina. Executive Order 5533, establishment of the Plumtree Island Bird Refuge, Virginia. Executive Order 5534, addition to Nantahala National Forest, North Carolina. Executive Order 5535, exemption of John B. Wynant from civil service rules. Executive Order 5536, trust period extended on allotments of Yankton Indians, South Dakota. Executive Order 5537, transfer of land from Forest to Interior Department in Arizona. Executive Order 5538, revoking withdrawal for Power Site Reserve Number 71, Montana. Executive Order 5539, restoration of lands withdrawn for Public Water Reserve Number 126, Oregon. Executive Order 5540, enlargement of Deer Lodge National Forest, Montana. Executive Order 5541, enlargement of the Sitgreaves National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5542, addition to Ashley National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5543, withdrawal for classification and pending legislation, Oregon. Executive Order 5544, trust period extended on allotments of Umatilla Indians, Oregon. Executive Order 5545, reservation of lands for Forestry School, New Mexico. Executive Order 5546, restoration of lands in Colorado, withdrawn for Power Site Reserve. Executive Order 5547, trust period extended on allotments of Flathead Indians, Montana. Executive Order 5548, establishment of the Green Island Bird Refuge, Vermont. Executive Order 5549, restoration of lands to entry, Utah. Executive Order 5550, trust period extended on allotments of Fort Belknap Indians, Montana. Executive Order 5551, trust period extended on allotments of Mission Indians, California. Executive Order 5552, addition to Gallatin National Forest, Montana. Executive Order 5553, restoration of lands withdrawn for Public Water Reserve, Oregon. Executive Order 5554, addition to Chugach National Forest, Alaska. Executive Order 5555, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Oregon. Executive Order 5556, restoration of lands to entry, Oregon. Executive Order 5557, addition to Fish Lake National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5558, restoration of lands withdrawn for Public Water Reserve, number 100, Idaho. Executive Order 5559, addition to Jefferson National Forest, Virginia. Executive Order 5560, transfer of lands from Interior to Agriculture, Oregon. Executive Order 5561, restoration of lands to entry, Wyoming. Executive Order 5562, transfer of lands from Agriculture to Interior, Montana. Executive Order 5563, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Washington. Executive Order 5564, trust period extended on allotments of Yakima Indians, Washington. Executive Order 5565, addition to Wenatchee National Forest, Washington. Executive Order 5566, establishment of the Huron Islands Bird Refuge, Michigan. Executive Order 5567, transfer of lands between forests, Montana. Executive Order 5568, enlargement of the Helena National Forest, Montana. Executive Order 5569, establishment of the Tishomingo National Wildlife Refuge, Oklahoma. Executive Order 5570, restoration of lands withdrawn for Public Water Reserve, Montana. Executive Order 5571, addition to Nebraska National Forest, Nebraska. Executive Order 5572, withdrawal of lands for classification, New Mexico. Executive Order 5573, restoration of lands to entry, Montana. Executive Order 5574, trust period extended on allotments of Rosebud Indians, South Dakota. Executive Order 5575, reservation of land for Indian school purposes, Arizona. Executive Order 5576, addition to Wasatch National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5577, establishment of the Upper Mississippi River Wildlife and Fish Refuge, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. Executive Order 5578, enlargement of the Angeles National Forest, California. Executive Order 5579, transfer of lands for Fort Missoula, Montana. Executive Order 5580, withdrawal of lands for classification, Utah. Executive Order 5581, establishment of the McNairy National Wildlife Refuge, Washington. Executive Order 5582, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserve, Colorado. Executive Order 5583, enlargement of Chippewa National Forest, Minnesota. Executive Order 5584, establishment of the Hiawatha National Forest, Michigan. Executive Order 5585, reservation of lands for Indian Boarding School, Arizona. Executive Order 5586, trust period extended on allotments of Shoshone Indians, Wyoming. Executive Order 5587, establishment of Bear Lake Migratory Bird Refuge, Utah. Executive Order 5588, restoration of lands to entry, Oregon. Executive Order 5589, reservation of land for Forestry School, New York. Executive Order 5590, trust period extended on allotments of Ute Indians, Colorado. Executive Order 5591, establishment of the Desert Game Refuge, Nevada. Executive Order 5592, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Oregon. Executive Order 5593, restoration of lands to entry, California. Executive Order 5594, enlargement of Lassen National Forest, California. Executive Order 5570, restoration of lands withdrawn for Public Water Reserve, Montana. Executive Order 5571, addition to Nebraska National Forest, Nebraska. Executive Order 5572, withdrawal of lands for classification, New Mexico. Executive Order 5573, restoration of lands to entry, Montana. Executive Order 5574, trust period extended on allotments of Rosebud Indians, South Dakota. Executive Order 5575, reservation of land for Indian school purposes, Arizona. Executive Order 5576, addition to Wasatch National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5577, establishment of the Upper Mississippi River Wildlife and Fish Refuge, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. Executive Order 5578, enlargement of the Angeles National Forest, California. Executive Order 5579, transfer of lands for Fort Missoula, Montana. Executive Order 5580, withdrawal of lands for classification, Utah. Executive Order 5581, establishment of the McNary National Wildlife Refuge, Washington. Executive Order 5582, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Colorado. Executive Order 5583, enlargement of Chippewa National Forest, Minnesota. Executive Order 5584, establishment of the Hiawatha National Forest, Michigan. Executive Order 5585, reservation of lands for Indian Boarding School, Arizona. Executive Order 5586, trust period extended on allotments of Shoshone Indians, Wyoming. Executive Order 5587, establishment of Bear Lake Migratory Bird Refuge, Utah. Executive Order 5588, restoration of lands to entry, Oregon. Executive Order 5589, reservation of land for Forestry School, New York. Executive Order 5590, trust period extended on allotments of Ute Indians, Colorado. Executive Order 5591, establishment of the Desert Game Refuge, Nevada. Executive Order 5592, restoration of lands withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Oregon. Executive Order 5593, restoration of lands to entry, California. Executive Order 5594, enlargement of Lassen National Forest, California. Executive Order 5595, trust period extended on allotments of Cheyenne and Arapaho Indians, Oklahoma. Executive Order 5596, Reservation of Lands for Experimental Forest Purposes, Arizona. Executive Order 5597, Restoration of Lands to Entry, Utah. Executive Order 5598, Addition to Medicine Bow National Forest, Wyoming. Executive Order 5599, Enlargement of Bitterroot National Forest, Idaho and Montana. Executive Order 5600, Reservation of Land for Military Purposes, Alaska. Executive Order 5601, Establishment of the San Andres National Wildlife Refuge, New Mexico. Executive Order 5602, Restoration of Lands Withdrawn for Classification, Oregon. Executive Order 5603, Transfer of Lands Between Forests, California. Executive Order 5604, Restoration of Lands to Entry, South Dakota. Executive Order 5605, Establishment of the Klamath Forest Game Refuge, Oregon. Executive Order 5606, Trust Period Extended on Allotments of Kickapoo Indians, Oklahoma. Executive Order 5607, Reservation of Lands for Indian Mission, Arizona. Executive Order 5608, Transfer of Lands to Military Reservation, Hawaii. Executive Order 5609, Reservation of Lands for Civil Aviation Purposes, Alaska. Executive Order 5610, Restoration of Lands Withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Oregon. These are the executive orders issued under my authority in the year 1931, bearing full and proper titles. Let the record so reflect.
Legacy of the pen. Folks, we've just heard President Hoover recite every titled executive order he issued in the year 1931. Now, if you were just listening for the first time, it might have sounded like a string of technical memorandums. Forests added here, lands restored there, trust periods extended, wildlife refuges created. But don't be fooled, because behind every one of those executive orders is a vision or a blind spot. And the decisions made in 1931 still echo into our lives today. The most meaningful positive order, Executive Order 5577, the Upper Mississippi River Wildlife and Fish Refuge. Let's start with one of the most profoundly positive actions taken by President Hoover, Executive Order 5577. That order formally established the Upper Mississippi River Wildlife and Fish Refuge, stretching across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois. Now, this wasn't just a feel-good conservation effort. This was an early act of climate foresight. At the time, the Mississippi River Basin was already under pressure from logging industry and agricultural runoff. Species were dying, waters were polluted, habitats were vanishing. Hoover's action preserved over 240,000 acres of vital wetland and river habitat, which still serve as critical migratory bird corridors, breeding grounds for endangered fish, and natural water filtration systems that protect drinking water for millions downstream. In a time when environmental protection was still in its infancy, Hoover wrote a blueprint we're still building on today. That one order, 5577, helped slow ecological collapse in one of our most essential ecosystems. Without it, the story of the Midwest might be very different. Fewer eagles, no pelicans, no paddlefish, maybe even less farming and more flooding from a degraded river system. The most damaging or neglectful order, executive inaction on economic crisis. But now, let's turn to the other side of the scale. In 1931, the Great Depression was deepening. Unemployment soared past 15 million Americans. Banks were failing, families were starving, and the Dust Bowl was beginning to choke the land. And what did Hoover use executive orders for? He created bird refuges. He moved land from one department to another. But he did not once, use an executive order to deliver direct emergency relief. There was no executive order for food aid. No executive order for rent freezes, no executive order creating a jobs corps, even a temporary one. And that, my friends, is the most damaging legacy of Hoover's 1931 pen, what he refused to write. A tale of two Americas, nature preserved, people forgotten. Hoover's presidency in 1931 represents something tragic, a kind of misprioritization we still struggle with today. On one hand, he led in conservation. He expanded national forests. He protected birds, fish, and timber. He saw value in the natural world, and history honors that, but he failed to lead with compassion in an economic crisis. The man who signed executive orders to save a bird sanctuary wouldn't sign one to feed a starving child. The man who reclassified lands across states wouldn't use the same authority to prevent mass foreclosures, suicides, and mass migration out of rural America. He didn't break the law, but he did break the moment. How it affects us today. You want to know why this still matters? Because in 2020, during a pandemic and economic shutdown, we faced a similar crossroad. And this time, the executive branch did act. We used orders to pause student loans, to expand unemployment, to ship food and PPE, to protect renters from being thrown out on the street. And I stood at the resolute desk knowing full well what Hoover did and what he didn't do. Because, folks, history gives you the answers before the test, but only if you've done the reading. So, to all those listening, students, voters, leaders, neighbors, when you hear the term executive order, don't tune out. Tune in. Because those papers, they shape your water, your land, your air, your freedom, your housing, your survival. Learn the patterns. Look at what got signed and what didn't. Because those choices echo across time, right down to the bills on your kitchen table. And now, in honor of full transparency and reflection, I invite President Hoover back to the floor to read aloud his executive orders for the year 1932. Because history isn't just memory, it's a mirror.
As President of the United States, I now enter into the public record all executive orders and proclamations bearing formal titles that were signed in the year 1932. Executive Order 5611, Restoration of Lands Withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Oregon. Executive Order 5612, Enlargement of the San Isabel National Forest, Colorado. Executive Order 5613, Reservation of Land for Public School Purposes, New Mexico. Executive Order 5614, Enlargement of Apache National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5615, Restoration of Lands to Entry, Utah. Executive Order 5616, Trust Period Extended on Allotments of Kiowa Indians, Oklahoma. Executive Order 5617, Enlargement of Prescott National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5618, Establishment of the Crescent Lake Migratory Bird Refuge, Oregon. Executive Order 5619, Addition to Fish Lake National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5620, Transfer of Lands Between Departments, California. Executive Order 5621, Reservation of Lands for School Purposes, Arizona. Executive Order 5622, Addition to Modoc National Forest, California. Executive Order 5623, Enlargement of the Croatan National Forest, North Carolina. Executive Order 5624, Establishment of the Pahranagat National Wildlife Refuge, Nevada. Executive Order 5625, Withdrawal of Lands for Classification, Colorado. Executive Order 5626, Addition to Coconino National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5627, Restoration of Lands Withdrawn for Public Water Reserve, Idaho. Executive Order 5628, Trust Period Extended on Allotments of Warm Springs Indians, Oregon. Executive Order 5629, Establishment of Tule Lake Bird Refuge, California. Executive Order 5630, Reservation of Land for Indian Cemetery, Montana. Executive Order 5631, Enlargement of the Wasatch National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5632, Restoration of Lands to Entry, Montana. Executive Order 5633, Reservation of Lands for Indian School Purposes, South Dakota. Executive Order 5634, Trust Period Extended on Allotments of Nez Perce Indians, Idaho. Executive Order 5635, Reservation of Lands for Civil Aviation Use, Alaska. Executive Order 5636, enlargement of the Lincoln National Forest, New Mexico. Executive Order 5637, establishment of the Monte Vista National Wildlife Refuge, Colorado. Executive Order 5638, restoration of lands to Entry, Oregon. Executive Order 5639, enlargement of Medicine Bow National Forest, Wyoming. Executive Order 5640, trust period extended on allotments of Pueblo Indians, New Mexico. Executive Order 5641, reservation of lands for air navigation purposes, Arizona. Executive Order 5642, restoration of lands withdrawn for power site reserve, Montana. Executive Order 5643, enlargement of the Lassen National Forest, California. Executive Order 5644, addition to the Kaibab National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5645, reservation of lands for Agricultural Experiment Station, Utah. Executive Order 5646, enlargement of the Monongahela National Forest, West Virginia. Executive Order 5647, reservation of lands for Indian Day School, Arizona. Executive Order 5648, enlargement of the Pike National Forest, Colorado. Executive Order 5649, establishment of the Swan Lake Migratory Bird Refuge, Montana. Executive Order 5650, trust period extended on allotments of Flathead Indians, Montana. Executive Order 5651, enlargement of the Boise National Forest, Idaho. Executive Order 5652, reservation of lands for reclamation purposes, California. Executive Order 5653, addition to the Angeles National Forest, California. Executive Order 5654, establishment of the Ruby Lake Migratory Bird Refuge, Nevada. Executive Order 5655, reservation of land for Indian Church Site, Montana. Executive Order 5656, trust period extended on allotments of Menominee Indians, Wisconsin. Executive Order 5657, establishment of the Fish Springs National Wildlife Refuge, Utah. Executive Order 5658, addition to the El Dorado National Forest, California. Executive Order 5659, restoration of lands to Entry, Idaho. Executive Order 5660, reservation of lands for lighthouse purposes, Alaska. Executive Order 5661, trust period extended on allotments of Crow Indians, Montana. Executive Order 5662, reservation of lands for airport purposes, Alaska. Executive Order 5663, enlargement of the St. Joe National Forest, Idaho. Executive Order 5664, trust period extended on allotments of Winnebago Indians, Nebraska. Executive Order 5665, enlargement of the Cache National Forest, Utah. Executive Order 5666, establishment of the Ouray National Wildlife Refuge, Utah. Executive Order 5667, restoration of lands withdrawn for classification, Arizona. Executive Order 5668, enlargement of the Ozark National Forest, Arkansas. Executive Order 5669, reservation of lands for Indian School Site, South Dakota. Executive Order 5670, restoration of lands to Entry, Colorado. Executive Order 5671, reservation of lands for public use, Oregon. Executive Order 5672, enlargement of the Apache National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5673, reservation of land for Indian Hospital, South Dakota. Executive Order 5674, enlargement of the San Bernardino National Forest, California. Executive Order 5675, reservation of land for Indian Cemetery, Arizona. Executive Order 5676, restoration of lands to Entry, Wyoming. Executive Order 5677, trust period extended on allotments of Sioux Indians, North Dakota. Executive Order 5678, Reservation of Lands for Forest Experiment Station, Mississippi. Executive Order 5679, Establishment of the Malheur Migratory Bird Refuge, Oregon. Executive Order 5680, Enlargement of the Umatilla National Forest, Oregon. Executive Order 5681, Reservation of Lands for Airway Beacon Site, New Mexico. Executive Order 5682, Trust Period Extended on Allotments of Osage Indians, Oklahoma. Executive Order 5683, Reservation of Lands for Fish Hatchery Site, California. Executive Order 5684, Addition to the Tonto National Forest, Arizona. Executive Order 5685, Reservation of Lands for Indian Day School, Montana. Executive Order 5686, Enlargement of the Cleveland National Forest, California. Executive Order 5687, Establishment of the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge, Utah. Executive Order 5688, Reservation of Lands for Public School, Arizona. Executive Order 5689, Restoration of Lands Withdrawn for Power Site Reserve, Montana. Executive Order 5690, Reservation of Land for Civil Aviation Use, Alaska. Executive Order 5691, Trust Period Extended on Allotments of Klamath Indians, Oregon. Executive Order 5692, Enlargement of the Colville National Forest, Washington. Executive Order 5693, Reservation of Land for Public School Purposes, New Mexico. Executive Order 5694, Addition to the San Juan National Forest, Colorado. Executive Order 5695, Reservation of Land for Road Purposes, Arizona. These executive orders and proclamations, issued in the year 1932 and formally titled, are now entered into the public record. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. President Hoover, for returning to the floor and reading into the record every titled executive order from the year 1932. And what a year it was. It was the last full year of your presidency, the peak of the Great Depression, a nation clinging to dry bread and dusted hope, banks collapsing, shanty towns rising, families breaking apart under the weight of unpaid rent and empty plates. It was a year when the American people desperately needed leadership that not only understood the crisis, but acted like it. The most productive order, Executive Order 5687, Establishment of the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge, Utah. Now, folks, I want to start with what's worth commending, because even in the darkest hours, good things were still written. Good things still got done. Executive Order 5687, the establishment of the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge in northern Utah, that wasn't just a matter of saving birds. It preserved one of the most critical freshwater wetlands in the western United States, right in the middle of the Great Salt Lake ecosystem. Without it, that region might have dried up and withered, and the entire bird migratory corridor might have collapsed, with ripple effects on agriculture, pest control, and even water filtration across multiple states. That action didn't just protect species, it protected balance. And you know what? Nearly 100 years later, climate scientists, agriculture departments, and wildlife biologists still depend on that refuge, not just for research, but for resilience. Hoover gave us something here, and it endures. The most damaging failure, the absence of an executive order on national relief or jobs. But now let's talk plainly, folks. Let's talk about what wasn't written. In 1932, Herbert Hoover issued dozens of executive orders, mostly about land, transferring forest boundaries, restoring public land to entry, setting aside parcels for schools, cemeteries, beacons. All important in their own right. But when your country has 1 in 4 workers out of a job, when children are selling apples on street corners, when veterans of World War I are building tent cities outside the Capitol, and your executive pen never once touches the issue of human survival, then you've failed the moment. There was no executive order in 1932 that created a national jobs program like the WPA that would follow. No order to freeze evictions like we've done in times of COVID. No order for food distribution, no stimulus, no direct federal employment. Hoover stayed silent where action was demanded. The weight of ink, why this still matters. I'm going to level with you folks. This isn't just a trip down memory lane. This is about understanding the difference between governing and just managing land. Because when the executive orders of 1932 were stacked up, you know what you see? A presidency that was more willing to protect deer and pine trees than it was to protect jobless parents. And I say that not to be cruel to the man. Hoover was a Quaker, a humanitarian, a brilliant engineer. But the problem was, he treated government like a private firm. And the American people, they were drowning in a flood, and all he sent were forest surveys. Government isn't a balance sheet, it's a lifeboat, and in 1932, no lifeboat came. The effect today, we still live with the scars of this era. We still have debates over whether government should step in or step aside when the economy turns sour. And every time a politician says, let the market sort it out, I think of the bread lines. I think of the bonus army camped in Washington, gassed and scattered by Hoover's successor, only because they asked to be paid what they were owed. Every time we debate infrastructure, I remember that Hoover could have rebuilt America years before FDR broke ground with the CCC, the TVA, the New Deal. And when people say we don't need more executive action, I say we needed it in 1932, and sometimes we need it now, because executive orders aren't just paperwork. They're parachutes, they're fire hoses, they're floorboards under a falling house, a call to know, to vote, to remember. I'm asking every American, don't take that list Hoover just read and throw it away. Study it. Ask yourself, which orders helped America grow? Which ones missed the point? And what would you have written? Because someday, when another crisis comes, and it will, climate, war, AI, recession, food, housing, we will again be faced with a choice between action and abstraction. Hoover's pen carved boundaries into forests, but it left millions outside the fence, unemployed, unprotected, unheard. Handing it back. And now, in the spirit of full examination, I return the floor once again to President Herbert Hoover, who will now begin reading his executive orders and proclamations from the year 1933. Because we're not just here to remember, we're here to understand, and the only way forward is through the truth. Thank you.
Executive Order Number 5985, Montana Restoration of Coal Land Withdrawal, Montana Number 1, signed January 3rd, 1933. Executive Order Number 5986, James W. Higgins, Jr., Exemption from Civil Service Rules on Appointment, signed January 3rd, 1933. Executive Order Number 5987, California, Revocation of Lands Withdrawn for Airmail Beacon Sites and Landing Fields, signed January 4th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5988, Retirement, Compulsory, Exemption of Certain Individuals, signed January 5th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5989, Charles Orrin Townsend, Exemption from Compulsory Retirement, signed January 5th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5990, Colorado Land Withdrawal for a Forest Administrative Site, signed January 9th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5991, Oregon Transfer of Lands between Deschutes and Fremont National Forests, signed January 12th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5992, Charles Caron, Exemption from Civil Service Rules on Appointment, signed January 12th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5993, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Designation as a Customs Port of Entry, signed January 13th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5994, Minnesota, Land Withdrawal Pending Legislation, signed January 13th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5995, Wyoming, Revocation of Lands Withdrawn for Resurvey and Such Lands, open to entry, signed January 13th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5996, Wyoming, Revocation of Lands Withdrawn for Resurvey and Such Lands, open to entry, signed January 13th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5997, Darrell Chancey, Exemption from Civil Service Rules on Appointment, signed January 17th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5998, Charles Gallagher, Exemption from Civil Service Rules on Appointment, signed January 17th, 1933. Executive Order Number 5999, Martha Outzarzak, Exemption from Civil Service Rules on Appointment, signed January 17th, 1933. Executive Order Number 6000, Josephine Horrigan, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, signed January 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6001, land offices in Little Rock, Arkansas, Alliance, Nebraska, Cass Lake, Minnesota, and Gainesville, Florida. Transfer of business to the General Land Office in Washington, D.C., signed January 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6002, Arizona land withdrawal for an administrative site for the maintenance and operation of gauging stations, signed January 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6003, Paula Gillespie, inclusion in the classified service, signed January 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6004, Oliver M. Maxim, exemption from compulsory retirement, signed January 19, 1933. Executive Order Number 6005, Kathleen M. Glancy, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, signed January 21, 1933. Executive Order Number 6005-A, revoking Executive Order Number 3360 of November 28, 1920, prescribing specifications for an official flag for the office of the Secretary of State, signed January 21, 1933. Executive Order Number 6006, Alaska land withdrawal for Public Water Reserve Number 147, signed January 23, 1933. Executive Order Number 6007. Carl R. Shepard, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, signed January 26, 1933. Executive Order Number 6008, Colorado, revocation of lands withdrawn for resurvey and such lands open to entry, signed January 30, 1933. Executive Order Number 6009, California, transfer of jurisdiction of lands to the Navy Department for naval purposes, signed January 31, 1933. Executive Order Number 6010, Panama Canal Zone, boundary revisions for Fort Randolph and France Field, signed January 31, 1933. Executive Order Number 6011, Tongass National Forest, Alaska, exclusion of lands from and such lands open to entry, February 1, 1933. Executive Order Number 6012, Utah, land withdrawal for an agricultural range experiment station, February 1, 1933. Executive Order Number 6013, retirement, compulsory exemption of certain individuals, February 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6014, Oregon, land withdrawal for resurvey, February 06, 1933. Executive Order Number 6015, Montana, restoration of coal land withdrawal, Montana, number 1, February 06, 1933. Executive Order Number 6016, Secretary of the Interior, authorization to issue oil and gas permits and leases on withdrawn oil shale lands, February 06, 1933. Executive Order Number 6017, Consular Regulations Amendment, February 07, 1933. Executive Order Number 6018, Alien Property Custodian, delegation of further powers under the Trading with the Enemy Act, February 07, 1933. Executive Order Number 6019, Oregon and Utah, land withdrawal for Public Water Reserve, Number 148, February 07, 1933. Executive Order Number 6020, Richard H. Knight, exemption from civil service rules on reinstatement, February 9, 1933. Executive Order Number 6021, sick leave regulations, February 9, 1933. Executive Order Number 6022, Ernest F. Mosner, exemption from compulsory retirement, February 10, 1933. Executive Order Number 6022-A, Harry A. McBride, inclusion in the classified service, February 10, 1933. Executive Order Number 6023, District of Columbia, Airspace Reservation, February 11, 1933. Executive Order Number 6024, Edward N. Dingley, Jr., exemption from civil service rules on reinstatement, February 11, 1933. Executive Order Number 6025, Montana and Wyoming, land withdrawal for Public Water Reserve Number 149, February 14, 1933. Executive Order Number 6026, Sterling L. Morlock, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 14, 1933. Executive Order Number 6027, John Story, exemption from compulsory retirement, February 14, 1933. Executive Order Number 6028, appointment of certain individuals in the Labor Department without compliance with civil service rules, February 16, 1933. Executive Order Number 6029, Mary Stewart, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 16, 1933. Executive Order Number 6030, Charles J. James, exemption from compulsory retirement, February 17, 1933. Executive Order Number 6031, Alice W. Goodwin, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6032, Isaac Gregg, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6033, Ann F. Kammerer, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6034, Joseph A. Kinahan, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6035, Kenneth C. McPherson, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6036, Edmund M. Martin, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6037, Alice Mummenhoff, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 18, 1933. Executive Order Number 6038, Lawrence Governor Hose, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 20, 1933. Executive Order Number 6039, Alaska, revocation of land withdrawal and other lands to be withdrawn for the Alaska Game Commission and War Department, February 20, 1933. Executive Order Number 6040, Oregon land withdrawal for Public Water Reserve, Number 150, February 20, 1933. Executive Order Number 6041, Adele B. Freeman, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 21, 1933. Executive Order Number 6042, Grace F. Smythe, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 21, 1933. Executive Order Number 6043, Civil Service Rule 9, Section 1B, Amendment, February 23, 1933. Executive Order Number 6044, Alaska, land withdrawal to protect native fishing rights, February 23, 1933. Executive Order Number 6045, Sitka Dock Site, Alaska, modification of land description, February 24, 1933. Executive Order Number 6046, Civil Service Rules, Schedule A, Subdivision 4, Paragraph 10, Amendment, February 24, 1933. Executive Order Number 6047, Civil Service Rules, Schedule A, Subdivision 3, Paragraph 1, Revocation, February 25, 1933. Executive Order Number 6048, Harry E. Timmis, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 25, 1933. Executive Order Number 6049, Milton Harold Powell, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 27, 1933. Executive Order Number 6050, Tongass National Forest, Alaska, exclusion of lands for an Army radio station, February 27, 1933. Executive Order Number 6051, Virgin Islands, federal employees, permission to hold positions in the local colonial councils, February 27, 1933. Executive Order Number 6052, Marie K. Cayley, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 27, 1933. Executive Order Number 6053, California modification of reservoir site, Reserve Number 17, February 28, 1933. Executive Order Number 6054, Colorado land withdrawal for resurvey, February 28, 1933. Executive Order Number 6055, Colorado land withdrawal for resurvey, February 28, 1933. Executive Order Number 6056, G. Harold Keatley, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, February 28, 1933. Executive Order Number 6057, Clara L. Hess, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 1, 1933. Executive Order Number 6058, Mrs. Jessie N. Barber, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 1, 1933. Executive Order Number 6059, Irvin S. Goldbarth, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 02, 1933. Executive Order Number 6060, President's Emergency Committee and the President's Organization for Unemployment Relief, transfer of records to the Commerce Department, March 02, 1933. Executive Order Number 6061, Joseph Gambaro and Solomon Israel, exemption from civil service rules on appointments, March 02, 1933. Executive Order Number 6062, Ruby McWebb, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 02, 1933. Executive Order Number 6063, Ellen T. Purcell and J. Elizabeth Williams, exemption from civil service rules on appointments, March 02, 1933. Executive Order Number 6064, revocation of order, restricting the transportation of passengers from certain Oriental ports to the U.S., March 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6065, Boulder Canyon, Wildlife Refuge, Arizona and Nevada, establishment, March 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6066, Edwin Shedden Cunningham, retention in the Foreign Service, March 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6067, Thomas H. Allen, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6068, Daphne Mary Byrne, appointment in the classified service, March 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6069, John M. Hu, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 3, 1933. Executive Order Number 6070, Mary A. McClung, exemption from civil service rules on appointment, March 3, 1933. My fellow Americans, as I close this chapter of my public service, I offer a few final reflections. I was elected in 1928 by a resounding majority, carried forward by the hopes of a nation that believed in progress, industry, and moral steadiness. I was the candidate of the Republican Party, and I ran not for personal glory, but with a promise to continue the prosperity that had surged throughout the 1920s. I stood with business leaders, with engineers, with innovators. I believed then, as I believe now, that government should empower the individual through opportunity, not dependence. I aligned with those who viewed government as a limited instrument, a steward, not a manager of the economy. I held close to those ideals, but I would be remiss not to acknowledge that in times of upheaval, those same ideals can falter if not applied with balance and foresight. There are those who argue that markets crash only by fate, by forces beyond control. But I tell you this, a crash, be it economic, political, or moral, is often the result of human decisions, policies, inaction, indifference, hubris. Markets can be flooded with speculation, regulations can be stripped or never written, warnings can go unheeded, and when they do, the people, and not the financiers, suffer most. We did not simply fall into the Great Depression. No, it was the product of choices made and choices avoided. It was preventable. Just as any crash is preventable when leaders remember their duty is not to fortune but to the future. I do not absolve myself from the burdens of history. I did what I thought right. I authorized relief efforts. I maintained order. I guarded American institutions. But in truth, I was too cautious where boldness was needed, too loyal to principles when pragmatism was required. Let this be my parting message to any leader who may follow. Prosperity must be guarded, not assumed, and democracy must never be taken for granted. With that, I return the floor to President Joseph R. Biden. May his words carry forward the lessons of our past, and may our republic endure.
Thank you, President Hoover. Now, let's talk honestly, like Americans gathered at the same kitchen table, the final stretch of the Hoover presidency. The country was deep in the Great Depression. Unemployment was soaring, banks were collapsing, breadlines weren't theory, they were reality for millions of our people. And yet, even in that final year, Herbert Hoover was still issuing orders. Over 100 executive orders in just the first 2 months of 1933. Orders related to land, water, military sites, exemptions to retirement rules, appointments, reorganizations. Some were attempts at organization and efficiency, others, bureaucracy grinding forward while the nation was grinding to a halt. But here's the thing. When people are suffering, no volume of executive orders will restore confidence if the policies don't reach the dinner table, the workers' hands, or the farmers' fields. Herbert Hoover wasn't a villain. Let's make that clear. He was a brilliant man. An orphan who made something of himself. A humanitarian who fed millions in Europe after World War I. A secretary of commerce who modernized industry. He believed in order, in individualism, in American exceptionalism, and that matters. But he also believed too rigidly in the idea that government shouldn't intervene, even when people were drowning. He clung to austerity when the moment called for stimulus. He feared inflation more than he feared hunger. He prioritized banks over families and confidence over action. It wasn't all bad. The Reconstruction Finance Corporation, that was Hoover. It laid the groundwork for the New Deal's banking reforms. He believed in public works, though not at the scale or urgency needed. He was cautious, sometimes to a fault, but don't get it twisted. He wasn't evil. He was limited by ideology, not by capability. And here's where we need to listen carefully, because history doesn't just rhyme, it warns. Hoover and Trump. Two men who both came to office backed by business communities, both famous before the presidency, both praised for their past successes and sold as deal makers, both hesitant to hold large institutions accountable, whether it's Wall Street then or social media giants today. Both surrounded themselves with loyalists and dismissed experts when they contradicted the image of prosperity. And both, when faced with crisis, pointed fingers outward instead of inward. Hoover believed the Depression was psychological, that if people just believed things were better, they would be. Sound familiar? Trump believed COVID would disappear like a miracle. He told folks it was under control while Americans were dying. He told businesses to open while hospitals overflowed. He said the stock market was fine, even as families couldn't bury their loved ones. Hoover resisted federal relief until the outcry was deafening. Trump passed tax cuts for billionaires while mocking the need for stimulus. Hoover didn't cause the crash, but he deepened it through inaction. Trump didn't create the virus, but he allowed disinformation, division, and dysfunction to magnify the toll. We elect presidents not for popularity, not for catchphrases or wealth, but to lead when it matters, to carry the burden, to tell us the truth when it's hard. Herbert Hoover showed us what happens when a leader confuses theory with humanity, and Donald Trump showed us what happens when a leader confuses himself with the country. We cannot forget what Hoover's era taught us, that the price of ignoring warning signs is paid in American lives, livelihoods, and legacy. And we cannot ignore the signs when they reappear. Let us remember that democracy isn't maintained by faith alone. It's maintained by vigilance. And sometimes, looking backward is the only way we avoid walking blind into disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, President Biden. Not just for your presence, but for your honesty, your insight, and your warning. You've reminded us that the lessons of history don't collect dust. They echo, loudly. And if we're too distracted, too entertained, or too comfortable, we won't hear them until it's too late. We live in a time where convenience has replaced curiosity, where the truth gets buried under headlines, algorithms, and noise, where apathy is marketed and critical thinking is labeled radical. But we don't have the luxury to be asleep at the wheel. This is a land where complacency has become currency, where purposeful ignorance is protected like tradition, and where truth, real, hard, uncomfortable truth, is too often sacrificed for comfort. That's why we need more truth-tellers, more people willing to ask the hard questions, more citizens who aren't afraid to say, "Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right," because the survival of a democracy isn't guaranteed by law. It's secured by people, awake people, brave people, people who choose to care even when it's easier not to. And to those people, to you watching, listening, questioning, I say thank you. Stay with us. Stay sharp. Until the next time, seek truth, speak truth, live free, and above all, stand for democracy. Remember, for democracy, we live for. For democracy, we die for. See you around, Truth Seeker. Until next time.
Pauline's Pizza, where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today?
Hi, can you tell me about your menu?
Of course. We offer handmade pizzas with different crusts like thin crust, original, or deep dish. We also have fresh salads, pastas, and both bone-in and boneless wings. Would you like to hear about our specialty pies or any current special deals?
Do you have any gluten-free options?
Yes, we do. Our gluten-free crusts are super tasty, but there's a $3 upcharge. Would you like me to go over the options with you?
Great. What's the largest size pizza you offer?
Our largest size is the extra large pizza, perfect for feeding a crowd. Plus, if you upgrade to an extra large, you'll get a free 2-liter soda. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Can I get that gluten-free?
Absolutely. You can get the extra large with a gluten-free crust. What toppings would you like on your pizza?
Do you offer any vegan cheese options?
Yes, we do. Our vegan cheese is delicious and comes with a $3 upcharge. Would you like to add that to your gluten-free pizza?
Yes.
Great choice. So we've got an extra large gluten-free pizza with vegan cheese. Any other toppings you'd like to add?
Well, one moment. What about hosting an event? Do you have any space for a birthday party?
Yes, we do host parties and offer catering. Let me get your email address so I can send over our catering plans. How many people are you planning to invite?
I left my sunglasses there last week. Can you check if they're still there?
I can definitely check for you. Can you describe the sunglasses for me?
They're black with silver frames.
Thanks for the details. I'll have someone check on that for you. Is there anything else I can help with today?
No, that's all for now. I'll call back later. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Terrence, a marketing professional with a passion for helping your business grow smarter and faster. Here at DaBomb Digital Media, based right here in Atlanta, Georgia, we specialize in bringing your vision to life. Whether you're launching your first website or reimagining your entire digital presence, we've got you covered. From modern website design and search engine optimization to setting up your own AI-powered agency tools, we deliver innovative solutions that keep you ahead of the curve. Ready to unlock your business's full potential? Let's build something remarkable together. For more information, visit our YouTube channel. Just search DaBomb Digital Media on YouTube and start exploring tips, success stories, and everything you need to elevate your brand.